This is the Buffett Mindset channel where we practice patience and calm wealth building daily. If you enjoy these types of videos, consider liking and subscribing. This will mean a lot to the channel. And so hear the truth you must carry, as heavy as a saddlebag, but as freeing as open sky. The world has never been your friend, never been your compass, never been your guide. Its voices are too many, its opinions too loud, its judgments too fickle. One day it praises you for boldness, the next it curses you for pride. One day it cheers your ambition, the next it mocks your fall. And if you anchor your soul to its voices, you will swing like a gate in the wind, opening and closing to every passing gust until you have no frame left. The man who waits for the world to approve before he believes will wait until his grave. The man who drifts with every fashion of thought will never carve a trail of his own. You must choose now to turn your ear inward, to hear the voice that spoke to you before the world ever knew your name. That voice is not loud, but it is clear. It does not flatter, but it instructs. It does not bend with opinion, but it stands firm in law, and it is waiting for you to silence the noise long enough to obey it. Buffett did not ask Wall Street for permission to think differently. He trained his own mind to see value where others saw chaos. Solomon did not consult the crowd when he asked for wisdom. He sought the eternal. The farmer does not plant according to the gossip of townsfolk. He plants according to season, to rhythm, to law, and so must you. The crowd will call you foolish, arrogant, unrealistic. Let them. The law will call you disciplined, focused, sovereign. And that call is worth every insult the world can throw. You cannot serve both. You cannot listen to the crowd and to law at the same time. If you choose the world, you will inherit its fears, its doubts, its smallness. If you choose law, you will inherit clarity, peace, and dominion. And let me tell you plain, the majority has never written history, the crowd has never built empires, the voices of the many have never been the compass of greatness. The man who bends the world is the one who first bent his ear away from it. So now decide. Every morning you wake, you will either open your day to the voices of others or guard it like a treasure, feeding your mind only what strengthens belief. Every night you lie down, you will either rehearse the doubts they planted or rehearse the faith you declared. Your life will reflect the choice, your barns will reveal your discipline, your legacy will shout your allegiance. Do not be fooled by the noise. Do not be lulled by the approval of the masses. Their applause is cheap, their advice is poisoned, their paths lead to drift. But the path of sovereignty is narrow, silent, and lonely at first, until its harvest proves eternal. Ride that path, guard it with your whole chest, and when the world mocks you, smile, for their laughter is proof you are no longer one of them. You are building while they are drifting. You are listening to law while they are lost in noise. And when the years unfold, when your barns overflow and your peace holds steady, you will not need to answer their questions, for your results will answer louder than any defense could. This is the law. Believe in yourself, guard your mind, silence the world, and obey the still command within. And now that you've turned your ear inward, the next step is to cut the cords that tie you back to the world noise. You cannot drink from two wells at once. You cannot plant faith in the same soil where doubt has been fertilized for years. The world trains you to wait to its notifications before you have even remembered your own name, to check its opinions before you've checked your own pulse. This is why you feel weak, scattered, unsure. You are starting every day in a battlefield already surrounded. You must reverse this. The first hour of your day belongs to you, not to them. Rise and sit in stillness. No phone, no chatter, no counsel but your own and the eternal. Whisper the words you have chosen until they no longer feel like words but like breath, until they are not an affirmation but an identity. I am the master of my belief. I am law in motion. I am deaf to the world and alive to purpose. Speak it until your spine straightens and your eyes sharpen. Write it until your hand cramps. This is not poetry. This is reprogramming. This is how you install sovereignty into a mind that has been colonized by noise. The world calls it foolish because the world profits from your distraction. Algorithms feast on your attention. Crowds gain power from your agreement. Critics grow fat on your hesitation. Cut them off. Guard your inputs as fiercely as you guard your wealth. Refuse to scroll, refuse to gossip, refuse to explain. Feed your mind only that which strengthens it, only that which reminds you of who you are. And when you feel the pull of the crowd, remember the law. Your dominant thought becomes your being. If you think like the crowd, you will live like the crowd. If you think like a sovereign, you will live like one. Buffett reads for hours each day, not to be entertained but to sharpen his edge, to stay anchored in his own process when markets scream panic. Solomon sought wisdom before wealth, knowing that every other thing flows from the mind rightly trained. The farmer rises before the village stirs, tending his rows in silence, sowing law into soil while others still dream. This is the model. This is how you rebuild belief. 7 mornings, 7 nights, 7 unbroken acts of obedience. The world will still speak, but its voice will grow faint. Your own will grow loud. Your faith will stop trembling and begin to roar. And once you have heard your own roar, you will never again bow to the whispers of mediocrity. You will not need their permission, their applause, or their validation. You will know. And knowing is power. Knowing is freedom. Knowing is the key that opens every locked gate on the trail ahead. And so the plan begins, simple yet unshakable. For sovereignty is never born of complication but of clarity, repeated until it becomes instinct. For 7 days you will obey this drill as if your life depends on it, because it does. Each morning, before the world has a chance to touch you, rise and sit in silence. Do not scroll, do not answer, do not wander into noise. Take a sheet of paper and write the sentence that defines your law. I am the master of my belief. My thought creates my being. As I think, so I become. Write it 10 times, slowly, with focus. Not as a student scribbling lines in punishment, but as a sovereign chiseling his creed into stone. Then close your eyes, breathe deep, and see it. See yourself as the man you are declaring. See yourself walking steady, speaking with certainty, acting with command. Feel it until your chest burns. That image is not fantasy, it is blueprint. And when you rise from that seat, you will carry it into the day. Now at night, when the body grows weary and the mind begins to soften, do not waste that sacred hour with distraction or complaint. Sit again in silence. Whisper the sentence slowly, each word sinking deeper than the last. Let it echo in the silence until you feel it settle into your bones. Then write again, not goals, not excuses, but gratitude for what already is and vision for what must become. Write what you will harvest, what you will build, what you will command. The subconscious, open like fertile soil, will receive it. And as you sleep, it will work, weaving belief into rhythm, rhythm into instinct, instinct into reality. This is the 7-day field drill. It requires no money, no permission, no applause, only obedience, only silence, only the courage to guard your mind like a crown. And mark this, by the 3rd day you will feel resistance rise. The world will grow louder. Drift will whisper, skip once, it doesn't matter. Friends will call, critics will sneer, distractions will beg. Do not break, for the law is clear. He who skips once invites drift twice. He who holds fast builds momentum, and momentum once born is unstoppable. Buffett's fortune was not built in bursts but in decades of steady discipline. Solomon's wisdom was not gathered in noise but in quiet nights of meditation. The farmer barns overflow not because he planted once, but because he planted daily, season after season. The same will be true for you. Give yourself 7 unbroken days and you will feel the fog lift. Give yourself 70 and you will walk as a different man. Give yourself 700 and your name will echo in barns and legacies long after you are gone. But it begins here, with 7. Do not drift, do not delay. Begin tonight, and make no mistake, the moment you begin to obey this rhythm, the storm will rise against you. For law does not reveal itself in comfort, but in testing. The world does not clap when a man decides to take back his mind. It mocks, it resists, it throws shadows across his path. Friends who once laughed with you will laugh at you. Critics who once ignored you will suddenly find their voice. Your own body will try to betray you with fatigue. Your own mind will whisper doubts you thought buried. This is not accident, this is confirmation. A farmer knows when he sows good seed, weeds rise quick, because fertile ground does not go unchallenged. So it is with you. When resistance shows its teeth, do not curse it, welcome it, for it proves you are no longer drifting. It proves you have become dangerous to mediocrity. It proves law has begun its work. Buffett himself was scorned in the early years, mocked for his patience, ridiculed for his refusal to chase what others called opportunity. But when markets collapsed, his discipline became his harvest. Solomon's wisdom was tested not by applause, but by the weight of decisions that could ruin kings. The farmer field is beaten by rain, scorched by sun, trampled by storms, yet still he plants, and in time he gathers. So must you. Understand that critics are not enemies, they are mile markers, proof that you have stepped off the wide road of the crowd and onto the narrow trail of sovereignty. Do not argue with them. Do not justify yourself, for every word you spend defending is a word you could have planted in law. Let your results speak, let your barns overflow, let your peace roar louder than their laughter. This is the way of the sovereign. He bends not to storm, he bends not to critic, he bends only to law. And when you stand steady in the face of trial, something shifts inside you.
You realize the storm cannot break you, it can only refine you. You realize the critic cannot define you, he can only reveal your progress. You realize the delay cannot defeat you, it can only stretch your patience into power. And once that realization burns in you, fear evaporates. You no longer dread resistance, you welcome it as a rider welcomes the open horizon, for you know it leads to strength, to wisdom, to legacy. Do not shrink then when the world pushes back. Do not hesitate when the night feels long. Stand taller, whisper louder, write deeper, obey harder. For every storm endured is proof that law is alive in you, and every critic silenced by results is proof that you are no longer the man you were. You are building sovereignty, and sovereignty does not beg, it does not bend, it does not break. And when belief passes through storms without shattering, it ceases to be belief alone and hardens into identity, the kind no critic can dent and no season can erase. At first, you speak the words like a man repeating a lesson, testing their weight on your tongue. At first, you write them like a pupil scratching notes on a page. At first, you visualize them with effort, with strain, with doubt scratching at the edges. But repetition carves grooves in the soul deeper than stone, and soon what was once practice becomes posture. You rise no longer to test the law, but to live it. You speak no longer to convince yourself, but to declare yourself. You write no longer as exercise, but as blueprint. This is the crossing where most men never arrive. They hear truth, they repeat it once, they obey it for a week, and then they drift back into the fog because their belief never endured long enough to rewrite their identity. Do not let this be you. Stay steady until the thought is no longer a visitor but a master of the house. Stay steady until doubt feels like a stranger in your chest. Stay steady until discipline is not a burden but a reflex. For once identity shifts, destiny follows, and no power in this world can deny it. Buffett identity is patience, and so his fortune bends to it. Solomon identity was wisdom, and so nations bent to it. The farmer identity is faith in seasons, and so the land bows beneath his hands. What identity are you carving? Is it one of hesitation or one of decision? Is it one of drift or one of sovereignty? Every word you repeat, every act of discipline you obey, chisels the answer into your soul. And when it is finished, when identity has fully absorbed the law, you will not need to try to believe. You will not need to strive to act. You will not need to remind yourself to be sovereign. You will simply be. And that being will draw wealth, wisdom, peace, and power to you as naturally as the river flows to the sea. This is why the crowd cannot understand the sovereign. They think he is lucky, blessed, chosen. They cannot see that what he is, he trained to become, and what he became was first a thought. They laugh because they do not know law. They mock because they do not know rhythm. They drift because they have never tasted the fire of identity. But you will. You are. Stay the course. Repeat the sentence until it is marrow. Obey the rhythm until it is heartbeat. Guard the law until it is flesh. For when identity is rebuilt, destiny bows, and the world itself cannot help but bend beneath the weight of who you have become. And once identity has rooted itself like oak, its branches stretch further than you ever imagined, touching not only your own days, but the days of every soul within your reach, until the ripple becomes a river, and the river becomes a flood that alters the very land it crosses. The world would have you believe belief is private, a whisper kept in your chest, but identity cannot be hidden. It seeps into your posture, it shines in your eyes, it alters your tone, it drips from your decisions. Your children will feel it before they understand it. They will watch the way you rise, steady and unshaken, and learn that life bends to discipline. They will watch you guard your words and learn that words are law. They will hear you refuse the whispers of smallness and learn that drift is poison. And without a single lecture, you will carve in them a framework stronger than any school or sermon could build. Your family will walk taller, not because of what you gave them in coin, but because of the structure you lived before their eyes. Your friends, even those who mocked you, will find themselves drawn to your fire, confused by the peace in your chest when theirs is restless. And many will bend, though they never admit it, to the law you live. This is why your obedience cannot remain selfish. You are not only saving yourself, you are anchoring others. Solomon's wisdom did not end with him, it shaped a nation. Buffett's patience does not end with his portfolio, it reshaped the very idea of value for millions. The farmer's steady rows do not feed only his table, they nourish the whole village. And so it will be with you. When you rebuild belief into identity, you carry generations with you. Think of the alternative, and let it strike you sober. A man who drifts does not drift alone. His children inherit his hesitation. His friends inherit his fears. His wife inherits his instability. His world inherits his absence. And though he excuses himself by saying, "I harm no one but me," the truth is his drift starved everyone who leaned on him. Do not be that man. Be the one whose steadiness becomes a shelter, whose faith becomes a fire others warm their hands by, whose discipline becomes the wall against which storms break harmless. This is the hidden law the world mocks but secretly craves. When you believe in yourself with unshakable certainty, you give others permission to believe too. You silence their excuses without speaking. You prove by posture what cannot be proven by argument. You show by life what cannot be shown by theory. And though they may never say it, though their pride may choke the words, they will follow. They will adjust their compass by your direction. They will rise because you refuse to drift. This is legacy, not the kind carved in stone, but the kind carved in flesh and bone, passed like fire from soul to soul. And it begins here, with you refusing the voices of the world, obeying law until law becomes you, and letting that identity blaze outward until generations walk in light they did not earn, but you created. And when the ripple of your belief becomes the river of your identity, and when that river has watered the fields of your family, your circle, your generation, it will not stop there. For rivers do not choose to halt once they have begun their course. They cut valleys, they shape nations, they alter landscapes long after the hand that first dug them has turned to dust. This is legacy, not the shallow kind of fame the world celebrates for a season, but the deep, eternal kind that whispers through generations. The kind your grandchildren's children will feel in their bones, though they never saw your face. Do not think this exaggeration, for law does not end with you. Law echoes. When Solomon built with wisdom, the peace of his reign stretched beyond his own years, influencing nations that did not even know his name. When Buffett disciplined his thought into patience, industries shifted and students he never met learned to see value with new eyes. When the farmer tended his soil faithfully, harvest after harvest, he not only fed his own household but altered the cycle of hunger for every family within his village. The sovereign man cannot hide his impact, for once identity is law, law radiates outward. And so your discipline, your decision, your belief will echo long after your breath has stilled. Imagine the difference. One man drifts, and his children grow up doubting their worth, fearing storms, mimicking his hesitation. Generations live small because he chose drift. Another man decides, disciplines, believes, and his children inherit certainty. His grandchildren inherit structure. His great-grandchildren inherit a framework of sovereignty that outlives any coin he could have left them. Generations rise because he chose law. Which man will you be? This is not a question to ponder lightly, for every choice you make today chisels an answer into time itself. You cannot say you drifted alone, for no man drifts alone. You cannot say you built alone, for no man builds alone. Your life is a seed, and whether you sow weeds or wheat, the harvest will feed generations. This is why your obedience matters beyond your own barns, beyond your own comfort, beyond your own name. You are writing history with your daily rhythm. Every morning you rise in discipline, you carve a line in the stone of time. Every night you speak belief into your bones, you pass a torch that will burn long after your saddle is empty. And when men look back, they will not speak of how many coins you stacked or how many titles you bore. They will speak of how you carried yourself, how you held your law, how you built when others drifted. They will speak of the peace you passed down, the sovereignty you embodied, the legacy you forged with rhythm and repetition. And that is worth more than all the applause the world can offer. For applause dies in days, but law lived becomes legend. Choose well, for the echoes of your choice will roll through time like thunder across valleys. And there comes a moment, long before your bones return to dust, when you begin to taste the very legacy you are forging, when the harvest of obedience ceases to be theory and becomes sight, when you walk through a day not chasing belief but carried by it, and you know with a certainty deeper than breath that you are no longer the same man who once drifted. You wake before dawn not because you must, but because rhythm itself pulls you, like the river that cannot help but flow. Your steps feel heavy not with burden but with rootedness, like a tree that knows storms may howl but cannot uproot it. You speak with calm conviction even in the midst of chaos, and those who hear you feel the steadiness in your tone before they ever weigh your words. You act not with hesitation but with immediacy, because law has already written the decision in your bones long before the circumstance arises. And people begin to notice, not because you told them to, not because you sought their eyes, but because identity cannot hide. The man who has rebuilt belief radiates something the world cannot counterfeit. Peace in the storm, fire in the silence, clarity in the noise. They will call you lucky, they will call you chosen, but you will know you are simply obedient. You will see drift in others and pity it, for you remember the fog that once held you, and you will reach out with steadiness to those ready to rise. You will begin to see wealth not as coins to stack, but as tools to extend law. Wisdom not as a prize, but as a compass. Discipline not as punishment, but as freedom. And when you lie down at night, whispering the sentence into the stillness, you will feel no desperation, no begging, only certainty, like a farmer who sows seed knowing the harvest is already promised. This is the living legacy, to walk in sovereignty while you breathe, to let your barns overflow while your hands are still strong, to watch your children walk in confidence before your eyes, to see storms rage around you and know they cannot shake what is rooted. This is what the crowd cannot fathom, for they chase applause while you build rhythm, they seek shortcuts while you sow daily, they demand proof before belief while you believe until proof appears. And when results roar, when peace stands, when wealth multiplies, they call it mystery. But you know it is law, as simple as seed and season. To walk in legacy while alive is to live in a world where fear cannot chain you, doubt cannot sway you, delay cannot rob you. It is to live as proof that man is not slave to chance but master of thought. It is to live as sovereign, rider of destiny, builder of generations. And this, more than coin, more than fame, is the treasure worth pursuing. The quiet knowing that you have bent the world not by force, but by obedience, and it has yielded because law cannot do otherwise.
And when a man reaches that place, when his very being hums with the resonance of law, he no longer needs to persuade or perform, for his life itself becomes a sermon that speaks louder than any words. He walks into a room and the air shifts, not because of wealth displayed or titles carried, but because sovereignty cannot be hidden. The drifters feel it first, though they cannot name it. They sense in him a steadiness they lack, a fire they once glimpsed as boys before the world buried it in them. Some will be unsettled, for his presence reminds them of the choices they keep avoiding. Others will be drawn hungry, leaning in without understanding why, for something in them knows they are seeing what they could become if only they chose discipline. And without raising his voice, without explaining himself, he awakens belief in them. This is the paradox the world cannot explain. The sovereign influences most when he speaks least. Buffett does not advertise his philosophy in shouting slogans. He lives it quietly, decade upon decade, and the world bends to study him. Solomon did not need to parade his wisdom. Rulers traveled from nations away to hear a single sentence. The farmer does not announce each planting he sows in silence, and the village gathers when the barns are full. So it will be with you. If you obey law long enough for belief to become identity, identity to become posture, and posture to become presence, then presence itself will shape others. Men will change simply by being near you. They will find their excuses crumble when they compare them to your discipline. They will discover courage rising in them when they watch your calm in storms. They will rethink their entire compass when they see your barns filled without fanfare. And the greatest irony of all, those who once mocked you will begin to imitate you. Quietly at first, in secret, embarrassed to admit they were wrong, they will borrow your rhythm, your words, your ways. And though pride may keep them from giving you credit, law itself will testify that you were their spark. This is the unseen ministry of the sovereign, not preaching, not boasting, not demanding, but existing as proof. And when proof stands before a man long enough, he cannot deny it, no matter how fiercely he tries. This is why you must not return to drift, why you must not seek validation, why you must not break your rhythm when storms press hard. For your life is no longer yours alone. It is seed cast into fields you cannot see, into souls you may never meet, into generations you will not live to behold. And one day, years from now, when you walk a trail or sit by fire, a stranger may come to you with eyes alight and say, "I never spoke to you, but you changed me." And you will know then what sovereignty truly means, to have bent the world not by demanding but by becoming. But beware, for when influence begins to ripple and men start to notice, the most dangerous test of all arrives, subtler than storms, quieter than critics, deadlier than doubt, the test of pride. For pride whispers not of fear, but of arrival, telling you the work is finished, that law can be bent because you have proven yourself, that rhythm can be skipped because results are already visible. This is the trap that has broken kings and toppled empires. Solomon, though granted wisdom above all men, faltered when pride crept into his heart, when he believed himself untouchable, when he allowed compromise to mingle with clarity. His kingdom fractured not from lack of wisdom, but from pride that dulled his obedience. Pride is the final drift, and it is the most cunning because it wears the mask of strength. It tells you that discipline is no longer required, that repetition is beneath you, that you can afford to loosen the reins. But the sovereign who loosens the reins in victory soon finds himself thrown in defeat. Remember Buffett's words, it takes 20 years to build a reputation and 5 minutes to ruin it. His fortune is not guarded by brilliance alone, but by humility to remain a student, to read daily, to repeat the habits that carried him through storms. The farmer who gathers a great harvest does not abandon planting the next season. He returns to the soil, knowing the law demands rhythm forever. So must you. No matter how full your barns grow, no matter how steady your voice becomes, no matter how many men call you mentor or master, you must never cease to be the student of law. Guard your mornings as if you are still rebuilding from nothing. Guard your nights as if you are still programming a mind that once drifted.
Repeat the sentence as if your belief could still tremble, for even the strongest oak can rot when pride invites decay. Legacy is not secured in one harvest, it is secured in unbroken obedience until your last breath. Do not mistake influence for immunity, results for permanence, applause for approval from law. Law does not bend to your pride, it does not excuse your neglect, it does not grant you favor because of past obedience. It demands rhythm today, as it did yesterday, as it will tomorrow. And if you obey, your influence will endure, your barns will multiply, your legacy will echo. But if you drift in pride, all you built can crumble in silence, leaving those who followed you more broken than if you had never risen at all. So ride steady, even in triumph. Sit tall, not with arrogance, but with reverence. Speak less, obey more. Give thanks daily that law does not change, and guard yourself against the illusion that you are above it. For the sovereign is not the man who outgrows discipline, but the man who never leaves it. And so humility becomes the secret armor of the sovereign, not weakness as the world paints it, but the shield that keeps the heart soft enough to learn, the eyes clear enough to see, the hands steady enough to build. Humility is not bowing to the crowd, it is bowing to law, to rhythm, to the eternal structure that does not flatter kings nor excuse paupers, but rewards the obedient alike. A man without humility and success soon becomes as blind as he was without belief and failure. He begins to think barns fill themselves, that storms will always pass without sowing, that influence is owed to him rather than loaned through his discipline. But the man who walks in humility understands that every harvest is proof of yesterday rhythm, not tomorrow guarantee. So he rises each dawn not with arrogance but with gratitude, speaking his creed as if it were the first time, writing his sentence as if the ink still held the power to rewrite his bones. He does not say, "I have arrived." He says, "I will obey today." This is the posture Buffett has carried for decades, refusing to be seduced by trends, content to sit alone in patience when the world mocked, knowing that humility to stay within his circle of competence was greater strength than pride to chase every glittering prize. This is the posture Solomon displayed when he asked not for wealth nor long life, but for wisdom to govern rightly. For humility recognizes that without wisdom, wealth becomes ruin. This is the posture of the farmer who never boasts of last season harvest but bends again to the soil, planting, weeding, watering, knowing the law demands his daily hands. And when you live this way, when humility anchors your sovereignty, storms cannot uproot you, critics cannot sway you, pride cannot seduce you. You become like a mountain, not loud, not hurried, but immovable, silently shaping the horizon. Others will rush, boast, drift, fall, but you will stand, because you have chosen to kneel before the only thing worthy, law. This is the paradox. Humility does not make you smaller, it makes you unbreakable. For the man who kneels before law need kneel before no other. He becomes the rider storms cannot unseat, the builder time cannot erase, the sovereign whose legacy flows not from arrogance but from obedience. Remember this when influence tempts you, when applause grows loud, when barns overflow. Guard your rhythm, guard your creed, guard your mornings and nights. For humility will keep you steady where pride would have destroyed you, and through it your sovereignty will not flicker like a candle in the wind, but burn like a fire no storm can quench. And when humility guards your sovereignty long enough, what rises in its place is not only influence, not only barns filled and generations secured, but a peace so profound it silences even the oldest fear of man, the fear of death itself. For the man who drifts dreads the end, for he knows he has squandered the gift, he has lived by the voices of others, he has scattered his thought like chaff on the wind, and when the final breath approaches, he trembles, not at death itself, but at the ghosts of every dream he buried, every decision he delayed, every word of law he ignored. But the sovereign does not tremble, for he has already died daily to drift, to pride, to fear, and in its place has been reborn in discipline, in belief, in law. His peace is not the shallow kind the world sells in moments of distraction, but the deep, still kind that cannot be broken by storm or silence. He lies down at night without regret, knowing he has planted, spoken, written, obeyed. He rises in the morning without dread, knowing the law bends to rhythm as surely as dawn bends to night. And when the last dawn comes, he does not panic, for he has long since made peace with law, and he knows law carries him beyond even breath. This is the final reward, greater than wealth, greater than applause, greater even than legacy itself. The reward of sovereignty is peace that no critic, no storm, no shadow can steal. Buffett does not rise frantic each morning wondering if his fortune will vanish, for his peace rests not in coin but in patience and process. Solomon in his early years knew this peace, asking for wisdom rather than wealth, because he understood that peace flows not from possession but from alignment. The farmer feels it in his bones after long years of sowing and reaping, when he sits by the fire with barns full and family fed, not anxious, not boasting, but simply content in knowing he has obeyed. So it will be with you. The world may still chatter, storms may still howl, critics may still jeer, but inside you will carry a silence deeper than noise, a fire steadier than flame, a river that cannot be dammed, and that peace will guide your last breath as surely as it guides your first step each morning. This is what it means to truly live, not chasing applause, not fearing shadows, not drifting with the tide, but walking in rhythm with law until even the grave bows. And when you reach that horizon, you will not cling to what you built, for legacy will already be alive in those you touched. Identity will already echo in generations you never saw, and your peace will be the final proof that law was true, from first whisper to last breath. And when a man walks with such peace, his life no longer ends with his final breath, for law, once lived, does not die with flesh. It echoes beyond the grave, carried forward in the lives he has shaped, in the structures he has built, in the fire he has kindled in others. The drifter leaves no echo, only silence, a hollow absence that vanishes as quickly as dust in the wind. His children inherit confusion, his friends inherit hesitation, his world forgets him almost before the dirt has settled. But the sovereign cannot be forgotten because his rhythm becomes the rhythm of others, his words become their compass, his presence becomes their standard. Long after Solomon's throne was empty, his proverbs still lit the paths of kings. Long after Buffett is gone, his disciplines of patience and focus will remain carved into the minds of investors who never met him. Long after the farmer has laid down his plow, the fields he cultivated will still feed the village, the habits he taught his sons will still guard the soil, the barns he built will still stand as testimony that obedience outlives the man. So it will be with you, if you hold to law. The world may never etch your name in history books, but the invisible book of law will write your rhythm into eternity. Every morning you rose, every night you spoke, every storm you endured, every critic you ignored, every act of humility you carried, all of it will echo long after you are gone, and those echoes will not fade, for they are not built on applause but on law, and law is eternal. This is why I warn you with such fire, do not waste your days in drift, for drift dies with you. Do not waste your nights in fear, for fear rots in silence. Do not bow to pride, for pride crumbles. Build instead with rhythm, with discipline, with humility, with belief, and you will outlive yourself. And when generations rise, when strangers speak wisdom they do not know came from you, when barns still stand though your hands no longer touch them, you will know that sovereignty was never about coin, never about applause, never about crowns. It was about aligning with law so deeply that you became eternal in effect, even if forgotten in name. The sovereign does not chase immortality, but he earns it through obedience. And when your echo joins the chorus of every man who has lived this law, you will be part of something greater than empire, greater than fortune, greater than self, the eternal order that bends the world itself. And so the sovereign, knowing his echo will outlive his breath, does not live in panic nor in haste, but in steady cadence, sunrise to sunset, each day a creed lived in flesh. He wakes not wondering what he must do, but remembering who he already is, and that remembrance steadies him more than any fleeting burst of motivation. His mornings begin with silence, not with the chatter of the world, for he knows the first voice to reach his ears sets the compass of his thought. He writes, he speaks, he visualizes, he programs his mind like a rider tightening saddle straps before a long trail, and then he mounts the day, not as one hoping to endure, but as one commanding to conquer. In the marketplace, he does not chase every glimmering prize, he focuses, he waits, he strikes only when alignment is true, for he knows drift hides behind distraction. In his home, he does not collapse in exhaustion nor escape into noise. He builds, he tends, he speaks life into those entrusted to him, for he knows the ripple begins nearest. At night, when the world grows quiet, he does not surrender his mind to fear or regret. He speaks again, planting seed in the soil of his subconscious, knowing that tomorrow harvest is hidden in tonight's whisper. This is the daily creed, not grand, not complicated, but steady, and because it is steady, it is unshakable. And though storms will still come, though critics will still mock, though delays will still test, the sovereign does not bow, for his creed is not built on circumstance but on law. Buffett repeats this creed in his own way, reading daily, guarding his circle of competence, refusing distraction, obeying patience. Solomon carried it in wisdom, seeking clarity from the Almighty before acting, knowing that one decision in alignment outweighed 1,000 in haste. The farmer embodies it each season, rising to plant, laboring to tend, resting only when the barns are filled, then beginning again without fail. The sovereign creed is the same. Rise in silence, guard thoughts, sow belief, act in discipline, speak with clarity, close the day in rhythm. And when this cadence is lived day upon day, year upon year, the man does not wonder if success will come. He knows it cannot help but arrive, for law has no choice but to obey. This is the secret the world mocks, the wisdom the crowd overlooks, the treasure hidden in plain sight. It is not the grand speech, nor the sudden burst, nor the lucky break, but the quiet obedience to law in the unseen hours that bends the world. Live this creed and you will find that doubt vanishes, fear fades, drift dies, and sovereignty becomes your very breath. And when creed becomes rhythm and rhythm becomes identity, there comes a moment where the sovereign no longer speaks of law as something outside himself, but as something written into his very marrow, a truth inseparable from bone and blood. He no longer says, I will try, for trying belongs to drifters who hope. He no longer says, I will become, for becoming belongs to men who postpone. He says only, I am, and the world, bound by eternal order, bends to obey. This is the rallying cry, the thunder that rolls from the mountain to the valley, the voice of sovereignty that silences hesitation and scatters fear like dust in the wind. You may feel storms rage, you may see critics mock, you may taste delay until your tongue grows weary, but the sovereign answers not with excuses but with creed, not with arguments but with results, not with noise but with rhythm. This is the fire Solomon drew upon when he judged wisely between two women, revealing truth without sword but with clarity. This is the fire Buffett draws upon when he holds steady through panics that crumble markets, watching wealth transfer from the frantic to the patient. This is the fire the farmer feels when his neighbors doubt his crop during a long drought, yet he rises still, waters still, weeds still, and in time gathers while the doubters go hungry. And so it must be with you. Let no voice louder than your own command your destiny. Let no fear greater than your creed dictate your step. Let no pride greater than your humility sway your hand. Speak the law aloud until silence answers back in agreement. Rise daily until your body moves before your mind hesitates. Sow belief until even your dreams repeat the sentence of sovereignty. This is no longer practice, this is power. This is no longer lesson, this is life. For the sovereign is not a man set apart by luck but by decision. He is not anointed by chance but by rhythm. He is not crowned by applause but by law. And once you step into this order fully, the world itself must yield, for it has no choice. Storms will still come, but you will ride through them. Critics will still speak, but their words will scatter like ashes. Delays will still test, but they will stretch you into strength. And when the dust settles, when the echoes fade, it will be your voice that remains, not because it was loud, but because it was true. This is your thunder, this is your fire, this is your destiny. Say it, live it, breathe it until eternity itself records it. You are sovereign, you are law in flesh, you are unbreakable, and nothing in this world can stand against a man who obeys.